Wow, it's been a quite amazing evening tonight, so I hope that I can do some justice to my presentation following such an amazing group of people speaking so passionately. So why don't we start? My name is Ben Bell. I am the CEO of Low Impact, and I'm the designer of Hungry Bin, which some of you may know about. I say that we need to design for sustainability because we need to design our future. We've got here in a sort of haphazard way, taking decisions, thinking about the short term, but really not spending enough time thinking about the long-term consequences. And that's important because I worry about the future that we're going to deliver to our children. Our children are actually going to have to deal with the consequences of decisions made by their parents, by their grandparents, from generations long ago. And so they're inheriting problems that we've essentially caused through thinking in short-term processes. So as a company, we think waste is a really important part of the problem to focus on, and the reason is, first of all, because we generate so much of it, and second of all, because we call it waste. Waste is actually a resource that is underutilised, and it's something that we need to pay a lot of attention to. Our specific focus is food waste, and it's really important to think about food waste because in the domestic context, it's 50% of the waste stream. It's mostly water, so it's expensive to take anywhere. When we put it in a landfill, it creates methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas, and it also contains nutrients which are incredibly important to the ecosystem. Generally, when we think about food waste, we also associate that with bacteria. So bacteria break the food waste down, and essentially they're slow, they're smelly, and they're slimy. So if we want to reuse the nutrients that are contained in food waste and reduce our environmental impacts, we need to find something that's a little bit faster and a little bit better. And luckily for us, nature's worked all this out. Compost worms are actually incredibly amazing at breaking food waste down. They're intensely fast because they eat their weight in food a day. Nothing breaks down as fast as when it's eaten by an animal. They like to eat food waste when it's soft but before it's smelly, so that's good for us. And they also produce incredibly high value nutrients. So the stuff they produce is ready to go for the plant. Now we all know how good it is to eat fresh food off the vine, and we all know a sense of enjoyment when we put our hands into the soil and actually grow plants. So the combination between processing your food waste into compost and growing plants is a really good thing. We all know just how good it is to eat a tomato off the vine. And so if we can take our waste, actually our resource, and convert it into a highly valuable output in our own garden, and then convert it to something that we really like doing, I think we've gone a long way to reducing the impact of that food waste. It's not just about the actual value of the food that we eat that's important. Gardens are an incredible way of creating human connections and building relationships with the community around us. So this is my family and our neighbours harvesting garlic on the solstice, which is something we do quite religiously. And if you go and look at any society around the world, the act of growing food and preparing it are two very, very crucial things that underpin all human societies. And I think this is something that when we look to our future and how we're going to build a society that's more sustainable, these are the kinds of things we need to start thinking more about. How can we create societies which, take care of our plants, take care of our environment, and then convert it into something that actually has incredible utility value for us? So, if I think about all of the human interactions I've had around the world that have been really important to me, it's usually about food, the preparation and eating of it. This is tomatoes and basil and onions from my own garden, and you can almost feel yourself salivating. So as a company, what it's about is trying to remove the barriers. So Hungry Bin, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's about removing the barriers that prevent people from undertaking that sustainability initiative. So it's about trying to find ways to make it easier for people and convert the outputs into things that people will find useful. But that's not just applicable in a domestic context, it's applicable in a commercial context as well. So this is an Auckland Council building in Graham Street. There's 500 people in this building, and they process all the food waste from that building in the car park. So they're not taking that food waste anywhere. Not only that, they are processing that food waste into valuable outputs and taking it home for their gardens. This is a site in Parnell. It's a 6-star building, processing their food waste in the car park there. they have calculated that this site saves them around $3,000 a year in waste handling and waste transport. So there's a real commercial imperative to this. Scale it up, it's at a human scale. One person can deal with it with one person can deal with 200 bins. This is Mount Eden Prison. The food waste of 1,200 people is processed in this site every day. Okay? It takes one person 2 hours a day. It saves about $200,000 just in waste charges. So they're using the outputs to grow food in the garden, and I've referenced earlier how important that is to us as human beings. So if we're talking about rehabilitating and reintegrating people back into society, one of the most important things we can do is actually touch on the fundamental aspects of them, who they are and what is important to them. If you look around cities, there's actually a lot of dead space. So this is the prison. There's a car park there that has been, the top 2 stories are completely unused for the last 4 years. And I don't see that as a problem, I actually see that as a massive opportunity. We need to start looking around our cities and finding the space that we're not utilising effectively and say to ourselves, hey, why don't we use it to process our food waste? Why don't we use it to grow food? Why don't we use it as a place where we can then build a sense of community connection and bring people together? And I think this is the really important thing. If you start looking around the city with different eyes in all different contexts, you can see that a lot of our problems that we take to the edge of the city, we can actually deal with in our backyard. And so as soon as you pop up from a bird's eye view, you realise that not only is there an enormous amount of space in cities that we don't utilise that effectively, but there's actually a lot of people living around us that share the same problem. And so with a bit of collaboration and communication and a transfer of a bit of technology and breaking down the barriers to sustainability, hopefully we can arrive at a society where we take care of our problems in our own backyard, we share those solutions with our neighbours and friends, and this is really what's driven us to concentrate on food waste and try and find a way to reduce the amount of rubbish trucks that are on the road. So one less rubbish truck. Thank you so much.